So we've looked at, over the last few weeks, we have looked at sensations. We have looked at allowing various sensations to simply be and noticing them and witnessing them, as well as focusing on a specific sensation that we choose. And then we went on to thoughts and doing the same thing with thoughts in terms of opening our awareness to simply witness thoughts as they appear, not paying too much attention to them, sort of like clouds in the sky passing by. That the awareness is like the blue sky and the thoughts are like the clouds that are passing. The sky isn't really affected by them. They simply come and go. Even when there's a storm out, if it's daylight, you get above the storm and it's a sunny day. And so the sky may have clouds in them that cause rain and snow and sleet and ice. And that might be the experience of somebody underneath the clouds. But as we rise above the clouds and see that the sky is holding the clouds, but not is the clouds. And that's a similar metaphor to our thoughts. And many of us identify with our thoughts. But as we start to de-identify with our thoughts and recognize that we are more identified with awareness itself than the thoughts that are being generated, that we can find peace. We can sort of find peace from our thoughts and not necessarily get too triggered by them, not feel too much energy that's directed to them. And also recognizing that if we do put a energy in a specific thought, that we can amplify that thought, right? We can amplify the energy of that thought. And so the one practice is really about opening up to thoughts in general and recognizing how our mind is really sort of a thought generating machine and recognizing the nature of the mind. But then also recognizing in the other practice how we can start to focus our attention and create thoughts. Right? That we can actually generate a thought. And when we generate a thought, we can pay attention to that thought. And as other thoughts come in, we can simply say, thank you very much, but right now I'm going to focus on this thought. And the way that the mind works, the way that our hardware works, is our hardware works based on repetition. And so usually what we repeat is what we are going to start to model. That's what we're going to start to become. And so if the thought is repeated that, we suck and we're good at nothing, then we are going to start to suck and become good at nothing. If we repeat that I am okay, that I am safe, that I am, or that I can, or that I have the ability to, or I will try, or even, more of a growth mindset of the not yet, right? Well, I can't do that yet. I'm working towards that, et cetera, et cetera. That's actually what our mind and body will start to resonate towards. And more specifically from a mindfulness perspective, right, what are the thoughts that are constantly being propagated that we're giving energy to? And that's more likely than not what our train of thought is going to be. So if we don't pay attention to our thoughts, if we don't understand what our thoughts are, if we're not focusing on our thoughts and even creating thoughts, then you're just allowing the mind to sort of be the monkey mind, and that's going to take its own course. Now, if you're happy with that, good. That's great. If you're not, then that's when we need to actually learn how to take control of our mind and learn how to train it so that we can train the monkey mind, so that the monkey mind we know is there because that's the nature of the mind, but that it's much more there's less energy associated with it. We're not paying so much attention to it. It's not being so aggravated. It's there, but we're working. We know how to actually work it because the mind can be a very, very powerful tool if we actually understand how to work it. Now that's from the nature of thoughts. Then we have the nature of emotions. From the nature of emotions, there's a couple of exercises. All right. One is, and this is the same thing, right? So at first we open up to all emotions. We're sort of recognizing all emotions that arise. And then the other one is we're actually trying to bring on an emotion that we feel. Now, sometimes we actually have a hard time bringing on an emotion that we feel. And this is the practice that we'll do on Thursday. Today, though, we're going to do a practice of just opening up to emotions. Emotions, the way that I see emotions, okay, first of all, looking at the word emotion, E means out, motion means to move. So an emotion, you want to move it out. Move it out. All right, we're not holding on to any emotions. We're not keeping them in. We're not holding them in. If you notice a positive emotion, you can reside in the moment, but we're not holding on to it. All right. If you have a pet, for instance, let's say you have a pet, if you're squeezing the pet too hard, it's not going to like you very much. It might get agitated. But if you open up your hand and the pet comes and sits on your hand, the pet might recognize you as a loving being and be like, oh, this is actually pretty nice here, right? And if you just sort of pet it and allow it to be, and if it wants to move off your hand, it can. And that's freedom, right? That's a bit of like we're not holding on to it. Same thing with any emotion that you feel, love, joy, peace, harmony. We're not holding on to it. We're allowing it to fully express. We may choose to be aware of the moment more, and so we're extending the moment to allow it to really sink into the whole body, to allow every cell to resonate with it. But it's not like I'm holding on to it like, I've got to hold, I'm so happy right now. I've got to hold on to this emotion of happiness or joy, right? It's like, I've got to hold on to it. Okay. And then as soon as I try to hold on to it, you recognize that, well, it moves as well. Emotions are sort of like musical instruments as well. You pluck a chord and you let that chord resonate. You let that chord vibrate. If you put something on that chord, it stops. Bah. Okay. Or like on my singing bowl here, right? If I allow the bowl, if I open my hand up and I allow the bowl just to sit on my hand, right, it makes a very nice, beautiful sound. Okay. If I hold on to the bowl, now, right, you wouldn't even know it's a bowl, but I'm holding on. Right. Hey, all right, bowl's not too happy right now. It's like, let me express myself. Right? Let me be me. Let me be the energy that I have in it. Emotions are kind of like that. I see emotions as thoughts that are felt in the body. Thoughts that are felt in the body. So many times when we think of emotions, we feel them. There's a felt sense to them. And if we don't, then that's actually something to practice, to learn how to feel an emotion. Many times with the interpretation, we're already on to the interpretation before the felt sense. So it's sort of like we've jumped the gun and we've already come to the interpretation, anxiety. Okay. Well, how do you know? What's the label, right? How did you come to how do you feel that in your body? How do you feel that in your body? Okay. Many people, if they feel nervousness or anxiety or something like that, many people have felt what they call butterflies in the stomach. Okay. Butterflies in the stomach are often labeled as anxiety or nervousness. Okay. They can also be agitation. They can also be excitement. Okay. But noticing the butterflies in the stomach and as a felt sense in the body. Okay. Sort of like a thought. It's like it's expressing itself. It's something that's expressing itself in the body and it's felt in the body. If you feel emotions, anger, stress, joy, love, depression, anxiety, anger, frustration, whatever it is, right? From a body-centered practice, it's always good to feel that sensation, feel what that is that we're labeling as frustration in the body, right? Where's the anger? What are you feeling inside your body, right? I'm angry. Good, that's the label. Okay, what are we actually noticing inside the body? And allow the body, because it's going to be through the body and the connection with the body and the mind that we're going to allow these things to flow. We're going to allow these things to flow. So the first practice, right, just like thoughts, is essentially opening up to the world of emotions, the felt sense of emotions. What are the emotions that are arising for me right now? What are the emotions that are arising for me right now? And there might be a few emotions. There might be one emotion. There might be, whatever. And as we recognize it, okay, this is where we have done this practice before, which is part of the rain. But the rain, we actually pick a certain scenario that generated an emotion. This is where we actually just find and allow the emotion to arise. And when that emotion arises, then we name it. Okay, we recognize the felt sense in the body, and then we name that felt sense and we name the emotion. As we do that, then we notice how that felt sense changes. And what happens usually when we start to name it, we start to become aware of emotions, is we start to kind of like unravel the holdings that we have on many emotions. And we sort of get to some deeper and more core emotions. Okay. I call this practice the emotional onion, because what we're doing is we're peeling the onion. We're peeling the onion. So usually when the first emotion that we are aware of is that emotion we usually feel a little bit more comfortable with. It's more superficial. It's more present, maybe, and it's easier to tap into. As we peel the onion, okay, what you're going to find is that there's going to be emotions under the emotion. There's going to be emotions under the emotion. It's almost like we're sort of like unveiling the layers of multiple years of sort of emotions, or months or weeks or whatever, of emotions that have been piled one on top of another, and emotions that have been suppressed, sort of like pushed down. Keep it down. Don't want to express that one. Keep it down. Don't want that one to move. Okay. From a place of mindfulness and resourcing, which is where we'll start the practice, right, we find a resource. Okay, whatever that place is for us, an anchor, a mantra, a word or sound, a phrase that keeps us safe. Right? And then we open up to the realm of emotions. We simply ask ourselves, what am I feeling now? What am I feeling now? Not yesterday, not what will I feel tomorrow after I take that exam. Right? What am I feeling now? And we open up. Just totally, it's like you're having a party. Okay. And you don't have a guest list, so anybody can show up at your door. Hey, there's a party at blah, blah, blah. Come on in. Right? And you open the door and you don't know what's going to come. You don't know what's going to come, but it might come. Right? But you're totally authentic. You're totally pure and authentic with yourself. You say, what am I feeling now? And what am I feeling now? And you allow the felt sense, from a feeling perspective in the body, and it's almost like it's going to start to speak. Sort of, it's going to start to express itself. Wait, are you giving me an opportunity to actually express myself and move? Okay? Because that's exactly what it wants to do. But we don't usually give it the opportunity to do that because we're suppressing it so much. Okay? Because we got our agenda, right? I got my things I got to do. I'm not ready to feel this thing that wants to be felt in my body. Okay. What am I feeling now? You're opening the door. You're having the party, right? The guests will show up. I guarantee you. All right. You just don't know which guests will show up. And that is perfectly fine because you're in the practice of mindfulness. Okay. If you feel comfortable with the guests that show up, guess what? Then you just simply allow them to come. You feel them. You notice them. You vocalize it to some degree, however you want to do it. Right? I am feeling X, Y, Z, whatever that is. And you just vocalize it and you stay with that sensation. You stay with that felt sense. You stay with that emotion. And you see what happens. Okay. 10, 20, 30 seconds later, guess what you ask yourself again? And what am I feeling now? And that's the onion. And what am I feeling now? Oh, thank you for coming today. I'm feeling sad. What do you notice as a felt sense in your body? That's what I'm noticing right now in this moment. I'm noticing this. I'm noticing there's a little bit of fluttering on my right side of my chest. It's going down my right arm. What emotion is this bringing on? Sadness. Oh. Huh, interesting. And I stay with it. I'm not holding on to it. I'm not directing it in any way. I'm just noticing the movement. Literally, it's like a butterfly that's floating around. Okay. And then I ask again. Okay. It will get, I guarantee you, it'll get to a spot and you'll be ready. Huh. And what am I feeling now? And you wait. You wait for the response. Will the response be immediate? It might. It might not. Okay. Could it be the same response that you got before? Absolutely. Could it be a different response? Absolutely. Okay. But it's the same. It's that same. And what am I feeling now? Welcome to the party. You open the door. There's no guest list, so you can't say you can't come in because you're not on the guest list. Thank you very much. Although that's what we tend to do, not in this practice. The guest list is completely open. There is no guest list because we're welcoming everything. Everything is welcome. We don't know what will come because it's purely authentic to the moment. It's purely what is arising for us in this moment. This is coming up. Where in the world, right? Then you start your little thinking mind, right? Where in the world is this coming from? I haven't thought of that in 17 years, and this all of a sudden arises? Absolutely. Why? Because now we're actually giving it the space to arise. You're saying, come. All right? Okay. But this practice starts from a resourced anchored space. You don't leave that resource in anchoring, okay? You don't leave the resource. You go from your resource to the onion. If you feel like, oh, you know what? That invitation was not welcome. You come back to your ego. I'm not ready for that one. I'm not ready. That's a lot right there. I'm not ready for that. You come back to your anchor. You come back to your resource, which is where we start. Okay. And then you recognize, oh, wow, that arose. I thought I had already taken care of that. I thought that was already dealt with. Well, if it comes up in your meditation, clearly not. There's still some energy there that wants to be expressed. There's still some energy there that wants to move. Okay. There's still something in the body that is holding on right? That it's sort of like we want that we want to allow it to move. Now, if we're not ready for it yet, which is perfectly fine, don't judge yourself. Okay. You come back to your anchor and resource. You come back to your breath. You come back to your mantra. You come back to your practice. If it gets too emotional, right, we open our eyes and we orient ourselves to the room and our surroundings. We feel our feet on the ground. We really orient to present moment. Okay. All right. This can be a beautiful practice. You can do it during a formal meditation. You can do it during an informal meditation. You can do it during a drive, whatever you can do. You're simply asking yourself, if you feel resourced enough, you can ask yourself, what am I feeling now? And what am I feeling now? And allow the gates to open. All right. So we'll go into the practice. Okay, so let's find a comfortable posture. A posture you feel relaxed, yet alert. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, having a soft downward gaze as you're gazing off on the horizon. As the sun is setting over the ocean, or you're gazing off over a field of flowers, a meadow. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths, and with each inhale, bringing in the present moment, and with each exhale, allowing yourself to soften, allowing your whole body to soften and be supported by the surface you're on. Being fully supported by the ground, the floor, the chair. Allowing yourself permission to do this practice right now. And breathing regularly at whatever pace works best for you. And directing your attention to your resource, your anchor. A place you can direct your attention to that you feel safer. This could be a felt sense in the body, your feet on the floor, your hands in your lap. Might be the sensation of you breathing, the sensation of where you notice the breath the most. It may be a prayer, word, sound, phrase, mantra. Maybe a sound. Whatever is authentic to you, that is a place that you can direct your attention to over and over and over again, that is safer. And as you notice that your mind wanders, simply for this practice, allowing your attention to rest on your resource and anchor. This is a place that you choose. And from this place of resource, Now opening to the practice of the emotional onion. And starting to open to emotions, allowing them flow. And noticing them as felt senses in the body. How they move and want to move, how they want to express themselves. And from your resource or anchor, simply asking yourself, what am I feeling now? What am I feeling now? And opening up to any emotions you may feel in your body and noticing them as the felt sense. We're not trying to hold on to it in any way. We're not trying to guide it or direct it. Simply allowing it to be free and open and express itself as we give it space. We may choose to name it or label it. Simply allowing it to be like a musical note expressing itself through our body. And witnessing, observing, noticing what happens. And when we feel the space is right, asking ourselves again, and what am I feeling now? And what am I feeling now? And you may notice it might be the same felt sense and emotion, or it might be different. And that is perfectly fine. Simply noticing and witnessing the felt sense in your body in this moment. And allowing it to be, allowing it to express itself, to move. And if at any point it gets too intense, simply coming back to our resource, to our anchor. Without judgment, without right or wrong, good or bad. Simply what is for us. And again, if you feel the space is right, asking yourself, and what am I feeling now? And allowing the moment to open up to exactly what you are feeling in this moment as it arises as you feel it and asking yourself, what am I feeling now? You may feel the movement of the emotion, felt sense in your body. You may feel numbness and stagnation. That's all perfectly fine, simply noticing. Being with the felt sense in this moment. And as we unpeel the emotional onion, peeling each layer, and what am I feeling now? Allowing anything that is felt as an emotion to simply be felt in the body. Allow it to be expressed as best you can. Always coming from a place of resource. And what am I feeling now? Simply noticing what you are feeling, what you are sensing in your body. And what am I feeling now? And noticing where your attention is now. And bringing your attention back to your resource, back to your anchor. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. Opening your eyes if your eyes were closed. Reorienting yourself to your room and surroundings. Stretching or moving if you need to stretch. And just taking a moment to reflect on your practice today. Yolanda.
Yes, Dr. Zaptera. Interesting meditation for me. I love parties. I'm always looking for one. But in this, it's kept me going in life. What can I say, But anyways, it was a very interesting meditation. And I took to heart what you said about opening my door, my soul. That's how I looked at it, to invite emotions as my guest to this party. I don't know if I misunderstood what you were trying to say, but that
sounds perfect.
In the meantime, I'm speaking for myself and not for anyone else, because I've been doing this with you for a long time, and I've also had it within me from the day I was born, I think. But I've come to learn that my thoughts evoke my emotions, as you have told us. And so dispensing or investigating what the emotion is, I direct myself to the original thought that evoked these emotions. And then I am able to tell them to leave me and get on with their life. And it gives me clarity of what I should do to be peaceful at that time, if that's the word I should be saying. Mm-hmm. However, during the meditation, I have this felt sense, Dr. Zapatera, which I want to ask you about. Can one have a felt sense that is an emotion that takes residence in your being? I mean, I feel love and compassion has always been. I've lost it along life's way, but it's always come back to me. And right now and in recent years, for a long time, it feels like love and compassion and caring just oozes out of my pores, even without me telling it to. Whether it's a person, place, plant, thing, is that normal? Okay to be that way? Like, I'm not pushing other bad emotions away. They come, but this felt sense kind of wraps them up, makes them softer, and helps me deal with it.
I think we should check you out. I'm just kidding. I think you bring up something that's quite beautiful. When you do this practice, or sometimes what happens is you do the emotional onion and you keep peeling. And if you've done these practices for many times, you might be able to get through those first layers pretty quickly. And you get to kind of a core inner emotion.
Yes.
And that's why I call it the onion, because you keep peeling, you keep peeling, you keep peeling. And, for you, you might, because you've been doing these practices for so long, or so in tune with your emotions, and you just, like you said, like, yeah, there might be some anger that arises, or this that arises, but underneath that, there's this core emotion that keeps sort of popping up. And that's really the beauty, to me, that's the beauty of the practice, is we allow all these, with time and practice, we allow all these emotions to be expressed. They're, all the ones, all the veils, all the layers of the onion that are put on top of us, our true being, our core, are just, it's really suppressing this inner core. And when you do this practice enough, or you're in tune with it, you keep on peeling the layers, peeling the layers, peeling the layers, peeling the layers. And that's why, to me, I've done this practice for maybe, I don't know how many years, but I've done it where I've done it for hours. And it's, what am I feeling now? And what am I feeling now? And it's sort of like another layer comes off, and another layer comes off, and another layer comes, and another layer. And then you get to this core emotion. And, I don't like to put words into people's mouths, or experiences into people's beings, or anything like that. But in my experience, that core emotion is love.
Yes.
And so that's why this practice can be so potent, is because you get to that. Whether that's compassion, compassion some people say is love in action, which I really like, or kindness, right? Those are all kind of interrelated. But to me, that's the beauty of the practice, and that's why I call it, from a personal experience, the emotional onion, because it really feels like, it's like the wounded individual who has been walking around with all these shields and armor and body armor and protection and, all these sorts of things, and going out sort of like feeling and starting to shed all that, right? Just starting to shed it all, shed. And sometimes that takes time, and sometimes that takes vulnerability, and sometimes it takes, the intention, whatever that might be. But at the core, what's the core of the onion? And so what's the core? What's that core? Is there, the first question would be, is there a core emotion that is present after we've done this practice? I allow it to move, right? Allow it to move. Allow this to move. Okay, good. Allow this to move. Okay, next. And that's why I say, as a little teaser, you might get to an emotion that repeats itself. It's like, oh, I'm feeling this, might be, I'm feeling a sense of inner peace. Okay, and I allow that to express, right? Whatever that feels like I don't put words, but from my experience, it's very light, it's expansive, right? It's ever present, it's moving, it's sort of this slow, almost like it's plasma moving in space. Okay, and then if I ask myself again, because I'm not attached to it, there's no attachment to it. The next question is, what am I feeling now? And the same response comes. It's like, oh, it's still there. That's interesting. And the felt sense, it's still that same felt sense. It's like it's almost like a very slow moving, bubbling swarm spring that you just want to reside in forever. Right? But I'm not attached to it, right? There's no clenching onto it. It just simply is. And I notice it, right? And I said, wow, okay, there it is again. And what am I feeling now? And I open, right? I'm open. I'm not holding on to it, right? You're not holding on to anything. And that same sense comes again. Huh. Here it is. Right? And there's times when I've done this practice where tears just start flowing through, it's just like you just start, it's like the most beautiful thing, and tears are flowing, and you're like, now, and then but it's the next question. And what am I feeling now? And you're like, wow, pure love. Like, this is just, right? And you allow that, what am I feeling now? This, right? And so that, in my experience, and I think that's exactly what you're talking about, is that core of the being, that core of your true essence is that. And then it's how it's expressed, but to get that, there's this unlayering, there's this unpeeling, which in my experience, this is a good way of getting there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel, Dr. Zapatera, not feel, I think I know that we are all born with that felt sense within us, but life has polluted it. And as you have said in mindfulness, repetition helps us get back to where we need to be. You're speaking about peeling the onion for those who haven't done mindfulness for a long time and who are learning along the way. And even for us who have and are still learning, we are able to cultivate that felt sense of love and compassion that is within us, that has always been within us. And that will slowly be there as a tool to soothe the times where our emotions get a little out of hand.
Yep.
I hope I made sense, as I always say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Funny, you should say I just had tears running down my face before you even said it, because I was just feeling this love for everybody in the group, and just, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yep. See, that's what that to me, that's the beauty of these practices, right? Is you can take something as simple as this, maybe not so simple, but and by doing the practice, then you get to the core of your being. And that then express the way that then we can express that, and we can communicate that, with either words or sounds or phrases or even a felt sense, is divine, right? And that's why, I chuckle sometimes, I laugh, there's a joy, there's that there's that sort of playful curiosity. And even now, you just sense it, it's arising, right? So then the more you do the practice, the more you come to that core, the more you reside in that, and that's then what you are actually repeating, right? That's what you're residing in. That's coming back home.
Yes.
How many times do you fully come back home? If you don't come back home, or know what that means, or practice coming home, or have that felt sense, right? How do you do it? Okay, well, here are some ways of trying to do it. Now you feel it, right? And just like what you said, we're born with it. So it's the unveiling, it's the undoing of what has been done. And that's where the onion comes in. But we then are doing the practices that allow us to reside home. And the more then we reside in the home, the more we're repeating that on the physical, from the physical to the anatomic level. And then that then starts to resonate our entire being. And that then starts to become the default mode. Like, that's then the base of, oh, here's I'm residing, right? And I can be having this conversation and that pops up and I go, I'm home. Right? And a smile comes across my face and tears might come down my eyes and people are going, what did that guy say? It's, like, it's not, it's just I'm feeling home, right? In this delicate beauty of it all. So that's it. That's it. Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
For bringing this out. Boom. See, that's the bubbling brook, right? That's the bubble. It's like it's there, and then you go into it, and then it expands, right? But I'm not. You're not grabbing on. You're not saying, "Oh, there it is. I got you," right? And then it disappeared. And it's like, sorry, that wasn't it.